Welcome to Starzology. In this video we're going to continue with our look at children's charts, and we're going to be considering children from newborn to 6-year-old. Astrologically, children can be compartmentalized into certain areas depending on how the transits evolve, and in this particular one we're going to be talking from 0 to around age 6. So this is your newborn up to preschool and before they go to big school, elementary school. That's the age group we're looking at. So this video is part of a series I'm doing on children's charts. There are a couple of videos in this series out already, and I'll put a link up here and you can check them out as well. Also, because this is a series that I'm developing at the moment, I'm also preparing a children's astrology guide for children's astrologers, or aspiring astrologers if you will, and that will be ready as a PDF download, and when that is available I will put the link below, so if you're watching this video a bit later on it's probably going to be there already. So let's get started. So newborn and preschool astrology for children's astrologers. We're going to be having a look at the main astrological influences for this age group. So it's for kids who are newborn, obviously, and up to preschool, which is around age 6. And the first thing we're going to be looking at are the critical early transits that occur in a child's life. So we are going to be looking at the outer planets forming conjunctions to their natal positions. We're actually going to be concerned with these transits because they will never happen again. They are technically returns of these planets. And it's kind of interesting that it will only ever happen in around the first year of your life. So super interesting work if you're working with newborns. So what are we actually going to be looking for? We're going to be, first we need to find the exact positions of Pluto, Neptune and Uranus in the birth chart. We are going to then be looking for Pluto returns, that is when Pluto goes back to its exact birth position. Neptune returns when Neptune goes back to its exact birth position, and Uranus returns when Uranus goes back to its exact birth position. So I do have an example chart here, and it's for July the 1st, 2021, 9 a.m. set for Vancouver. It's just an example of perhaps somebody's birth chart who will be born this year. And that is the chart. So pretty straightforward. Everything's on the chart, nothing tricky there. So what I'm going to do now is remove the actual main planets and only display Uranus, Neptune and Pluto so we can actually zoom in on what we're looking at. We don't need all the clutter in the chart. So you can see when you look at Pluto, it is actually retrograde. You know that because it's printed in red, and it's at 2556 Capricorn. Neptune, also retrograde because the numbers are in red, is at 2311 Pisces. And Uranus is direct, so its numbers are black, and it is at 1349 Taurus. So these are the exact positions in our example birth chart of the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. So we are going to be looking for any Pluto return that's going to occur in the first year of life. So we are looking for the time when transiting Pluto, which is the Pluto that's moving as we speak, will actually conjoin the natal position of this birth chart. And this is going to occur on December the 31st, 2021, which is 6 months after the birth, because the birth is July the 1st. So Pluto will have retrograded, it will then have stationed, and it will come back and make the exact position to the natal Pluto on December the 31st, 2021. So this is 6 months after the child is born. This is a critical time, a critical day for sure, and perhaps a critical week as well, because it's a high power conjunction to the child's birth chart. So you would want to find out what that date is and make a note of that, December 31. So let's have a look at the Neptune returns that may be occurring. So transiting Neptune will conjoin natal Neptune on March 21, 2022. And this is 8.5 months after the birth. So the kid is already 8.5 months old when we have this very powerful Neptune conjunct Neptune to this child's chart. So this will affect the child on this day. Not only the day, the week around it as well, let's face it. So that is up to 8.5 months after the child is born. Let's have a look at the Uranus return. So Uranus, because Uranus is actually direct in the natal chart, it will make 2 returns. So the first one will be on October the 9th, 2021, when Uranus is retrograding and going backwards there. You can see it there in the chart. And the second one will actually be on April the 18th, 2022. So we have 2 hits from Uranus making a return to the birth chart in the first year of life, the first time at the 3-month mark and the second time at the 9.5-month mark. So these are the 4 dates that we have picked out from this particular birth chart. Now, because Uranus was direct, it may or may not have retrograded back. In this case, it did, but it's not necessarily going to in every single chart. But because Pluto and Neptune were both retrograde when their child was born, we know for sure they will make a direct pass back over this position. If you want to know more about retrogrades, I'll put a link in the flag at the top right, and you can explore retrogrades a bit more in detail there. So let's have a look. So what? Well, let's have a look at the Pluto transits and what we can expect. So when transiting Pluto conjoins natal Pluto, it may make 5, 3 or only 1 pass to any particular degree, and it may take up to 10 months to conjoin a specific degree. It can be slightly longer in some cases, but generally all of these transits will occur within the first year of life. So in general, Pluto rules, because we're talking about newborn babies now, we're not going to cover every single thing that Pluto rules, but Pluto rules the reproductive and eliminatory systems. It rules toxins and the decomposing function, which has a lot to do with if food has passed its sell-by date, or food has gone bad, or the milk has gone sour, something like that we want to pay attention to, and general life transitions from one state to another. When transiting Pluto conjoins the natal Pluto at the dates that we have earmarked, you may have an instance where the mother's medications become toxic to the child through breast milk. If the child is being breastfed and the mother is on medications, there may be an overload of that medication and it creates toxicity within the child. For example, you can have a situation of diarrhea and vomiting, because Pluto rules the purging mechanism of getting stuff out that is not good or well. And you want to be paying attention to any baby food past its sell-by date. If you're buying tinned formula or you're buying jars of baby food and using it, you need to make sure that it hasn't gone off in the fridge, and once you've opened it, you're not introducing bacteria back in by spooning directly from that jar into the kid's mouth. You first want to decant enough food into a clean bowl and feed the child from there. In that way, you don't add contaminations and toxins back into the jar that then can grow mold and what have you. So this is what we're looking at. I mean, of course, ideally, you want to be preparing your own baby food. Isn't that in the perfect world? Yes, I know. So those are a few things you need to watch out for when transiting Pluto is conjoining natal Pluto. So next, we're going to have a look at Neptune. When transiting Neptune conjoins natal Neptune, this can take up to 9 months to conjoin a specific degree. So as the child is up to the age of 9 months, you may or may not receive Neptune returns to the birth chart. Now, in general, Neptune rules, apart from other things, it rules all medicines, drugs, and anesthetics. It also rules the feet, and it also rules sleep, dreams, and nightmares. So Neptune may make 3 passes to 1 degree or just 1 direct pass. It depends on the birth date. It also depends if Neptune is direct or retrograde in the birth chart, whether or not this will even occur. It won't necessarily be for everyone. So when transiting Neptune is conjoining natal Neptune, make sure you are giving the correct doses of medication. If for some reason you have to give your child whatever it is, make sure you're measuring it out scrupulously. This is Neptune, because confusion can come in and you might think, oh yeah, no, I gave little Johnny his medicine. Then you come back half an hour later and say, did I do that? No, I better give him more. And that's the type of confusion that Neptune can bring to situations. All-in-one outfits being too small and hampering easy blood flow to the feet. So we've all seen it. You've got the baby, it's in that little onesie, it's a one little outfit, and it fits for a while, and then you don't realize your baby's grown so much that it's not long enough, and the feet are being not compressed, but there's no freedom there. You need to make sure that during Neptune transits that you've got enough ability for the feet to be wriggling and moving and have enough room to grow. Sometimes you can be aware of sleep apnea. This is where the baby almost seems to stop breathing. We need to pay attention to that, and if there's anything specifically been alerted about this child already during the Neptune transits, do pay close attention. Make sure your baby monitors are working. So let's have a look at transiting Uranus when it's conjoined natal Uranus. And Uranus can take up to 8.5 months to conjoin a specific degree. So your child could be 8.5 months old, and so in some cases slightly older, but this is generally the age group for the Uranus. Apart from what Uranus rules in general, in particular, Uranus rules technology, gadgets, and widgets. So this is where we're talking about your baby monitor and things like that. It also rules the unexpected, and Uranus rules circulation within the body, synapses in the brain, and the ankles. So when transiting Uranus is conjoined natal Uranus, you need to be looking out for sudden changes within the child, anything that crops up during these transits. This could be closed too tight, cutting off circulation, especially socks with that little elastic just around the ankles. And you need to pay attention to loose car seats or strollers with no brakes, or things that are not strapped in, that your technology is not necessarily what it could be. So we've gone through quite a few things here, and I'm certainly not trying to be a worrywart or make you concerned, but we are paying attention to these early transits. Now, if you don't have a newborn baby in your family, or there's not likely to be one for another 50 years, who knows, you can also research your own story if you're an astrologer and this interests you. So some of the questions you can consider when you look at your birth chart and you go and calculate, did you have outer planet returns to your natal chart when you were just under a year old? And you can ask a few of these questions. You could say, well, were you ill after birth? How was it for your mother? And you would want to find the dates for your early outer transits. And I'm not saying you would have been ill, but what I'm saying is that new babies have ups and downs in their life, and everybody's paying close attention to what is going on. If you're a parent, you can also research your kids' stories. If you've got kids already born, you can go back and interpret their charts. You can cast their birth charts. You can go and find the actual dates for the 3 outer planets returns to their natal chart. And you can consider, did something crop up? Was the child ill, or was it smooth sailing for you? And this will be important, because if you understand how transits work, you will realize that these particular transits may form part of the secondary progression suite of information for the person. And then when they are perhaps 45 or 65 years old, or whatever it is, you can anticipate the same type of situation occurring that did occur in the first year of life, re-emerging during the actual secondary progression of these movements. And in reality, what can you do if you are just the astrologer or the onlooker to someone who's got a kid? So you could say, this is my suggestion, you could say to the mother, little Johnny seems under the weather, why not take him back to the doctor? It's not for you to say, oh, good heavens, there's going to be a problem here. And let's have a look at what not to do as an astrologer. Don't say, because the astrologer says so. This, what are we saying? You've got to be careful, and fear-mongering does not help. You don't want to be saying, oh gosh, you've got transiting Pluto conjoining natal Pluto in your brand new baby's chart next week. He's going to die. You can't be saying that. You cannot be fear-mongering. What you can be doing is paying attention, giving a little bit of advice and encouraging any situation that arose for the parents to maybe do a little more. That's really all you can do. It's not your position to say terrible things either, but you need to be aware of it. And from an onlooker's point of view, it can be quite disturbing when you see situations unfolding. The next thing we're going to be considering in this age group of the 6 years and under is the first Mars return. And this will happen at around age 2. And it could be, so it'll be around the second birthday. It might be the month before, it might be the month after. You have to check each chart. But it's around age 2 that we get the first Mars return. And that means that Mars has moved away from its natal position and gone round the chart and is now come back to make its first return. You can also get a triple Mars return if Mars happens to be retrograding over the birth position in the first Mars return, which is 2 years after the birth. There will be 3 hits to that birth position, and this will make it a longer, more drawn out energizing factor for the child. So with the first Mars return, what can you expect? An extra boost of energy in the child. They are out and about doing things, being adventurous, doing all those Mars things, getting running, jumping, breaking a sweat, and being more, I don't even want to say social, that's more of a Venus thing, but being more out there, pioneering, going where they haven't been before. And you can also, you'll find eagerness to work out through sport, which is a general Mars thing. So this is the time when your kid will want to play with balls. They want to be running up and down, jumping, hopscotch, and what have you, to burn off some of this energy. There'll be a lot of energy, and if the child is kept inside, it will, get a little worse. Also, that a lack of movement will bring irritability. So if for some reason you live in a place where it's snowing and it's winter, as we do here sometimes, you have to make sure that you get the kid outside, get them running, get them jumping, let them go and burn off that energy. Otherwise, it will bring irritability and crankiness into the kid, and you don't want that. They've got this energy that's been brought to them by Mars, and really the best thing for them to do is to run it off through exercise, activities, walks in the park, things like that. This is also the time of child's age when they're around 2, where they are keen to pick a fight, and it really is about standing up for themselves and not being pushed around by other people. Up until this point, you might find that the child was an absolute delight, and by the time they get to be 2 years old, suddenly they've become difficult. This is a period also known as the terrible twos, because there's tantrums, yelling, and stamping of feet going on as well. So they need room to burn it off, and that really is the solution for kids at their first Mars return. Otherwise, the parents get frazzled. Yeah. Another way to do it is the urge to start new projects. They are now at a point where they can start to learn how to do things. If they want to start kneading the dough, let them in there. It doesn't really matter if you don't bake it, but they want to learn new things, start projects, be aware of all sorts of things, be exposed to different things in life, take some action and make something, start new projects. Really, that's what Mars is about. And you may find that there is some resistance from other people. So the child, because suddenly they're becoming maybe rude, maybe they're yelling at you, and they're going to attract resistance. This can also come in the form that if, say, the child is 2 years old and you then have another baby that's brand new and the attention has to shift to the newborn, I do understand that, but this child will create resistance and maybe get some anger against the newborn baby. So you need to watch out for that at the 2-year-old mark. Also, if there are older siblings in the family, or the kid has elder brothers or sisters, they too may start to push back against the 2-year-old child, because up until this point, your 2-year-old has been an absolute delight. But suddenly it's like a switch has been flicked and they've become loud, aggressive, pushy, and maybe attacking or biting other kids. And the older children in the family will start to push back on this child and close doors in their face and not let them play, and they won't have it. So the child can receive tension and resistance from many quarters because of the way their behavior is. And the solution really is to let them burn the energy off outside. So what about doing some forecasting going forward if you are working with children's charts, for sure? So I'm going to say, don't just use transits, use all the forecasting techniques you have available, because once you start with transits, it's where you would begin, but certainly step it up and look at your solar returns, or consider also secondary progressions that may develop immediately after birth as well. And of course, keep an open mind. You don't want to be a dictatorial astrologer. You don't want to be the doom and gloom astrologer. But if you are on the sidelines watching family dynamics unfold, it can be super interesting, and you can give advice and see how people do express themselves during these transits. When you're working with children, you do see a bit more of a raw expression of this energy, because specifically talking about the Mars return, because as we grow older, we get a Mars return every 2 years. But the older you get, the better you are at managing your anger, not getting upset, counting to 10. But so it's that first Mars return where the energy is just surging through the child, and they really can't control it. That's why it's known, unfortunately, as the terrible twos, but astrologically, it's from the first Mars return. Super interesting there. I have gone over several transits that will affect children from the age of newborn to around 6 years. We've looked at a couple of them more in depth, and clearly there will be other transits as well, but these are the main ones that actually affect children before they get to school-going age. In this way, it's interesting if you do have young children or you work as a children's astrologer to focus in on particular transits as they develop as well. And also, as I did mention back in the main video, that these transits that we talk about that may occur 1 week, 1 month, or up to 1 year after the child is born will then be impactful in progressions as well, in secondary progressions, if they do occur within the first 90 days of birth, because that's how progressions work. But that will be a topic for another time. But the point being that if your child did experience a specific transit on, say, day 10 of their life, they will then at age 10 then have the same similar type of situation evolving for them in their lives as well, because that's part of how their chart will be evolving through secondary progressions. So we're not just looking at transits for newborns. You can go back and look at adults' charts and consider how was it as a child, and did these reflect then in the secondary progressions. I'm Alison Price. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.